said go and change that dress. You're not stepping out like that.
No, I like it.
You think I'm joking? You're really testing me tonight.
I said
You've probably seen or heard the shouting, the tears, the broken things left behind. But what you don't always see is what happens after the noise stops. The silence, the guilt, the fear that maybe this is what love is supposed to feel like. Every day, people stay in relationships that are slowly killing who they are. Not because they don't see the pain, but because they still believe the promise. This is one of those stories. A story of love that turned into survival. You're watching Anonymo. Real stories. No judgment, just truth.
Why do women stay in toxic relationships? What keeps them there, even when it hurts? Guess people are curious. What's so hard about leaving? Well, I stayed in a toxic relationship for 4 years. 4 long years of my life, tangled in something I didn't even realize was slowly choking me. It wasn't just love that kept me there. It was fear, guilt, shame, and hope that somehow he'd change. Before him, I'd been with different guys, and each one left me disappointed. Some cheated. Others walked away with excuses like, "I'm not ready for commitment," or "we're too different," or simply ghosting, without a word. When I met him, I hoped with every fiber of my being that he'd be the one. At first, he was. I was in my early 20s trying to figure out life, and he came with words that sounded like peace, smooth, caring, confident. He told me I was different, that he'd never met anyone like me. The late-night calls, random surprises, deep talks about our future. I believed him. I believed us. He felt special, lovely, like the answer to my prayers. But love, I later learned, can disguise pain. The first cracks were small. Coming long after the honeymoon phase, he started with jokes about how I dressed. "So you're going out like that?" Or "Why do you like attracting attention?" I'd laugh it off. Then he started getting angry when I didn't pick his calls immediately. One time, I was hanging out with my female friends, and he showed up unannounced, angry, accusing me of disrespect. That was the first time he raised his voice. The next time, it was his hand. He slapped me once, said it was out of anger. I forgave him. He knelt down, cried, promised it would never happen again. But it did, and every time, there was a new excuse. Stress from work, family problems, even saying I made him do it. I started to believe maybe I really was the problem. Our fights became normal, small issues turning into hours of shouting, insults, things broken, tears everywhere. Sometimes he'd leave, switch off his phone for days, and when he came back, I'd still be the one apologizing. I stopped wearing what I liked, stopped talking to male friends, even some female ones. I couldn't go anywhere without explaining every detail, who I was with, what I ate, what time I'd be home. And then there was the intimacy, or what he called intimacy. He demanded sex whenever he wanted, even when I didn't feel like it, even when I was exhausted from a long day, or still reeling from a fight. "You're my girlfriend, this is what you do," he'd say, his voice turning cold if I said no. The first time I refused, he grabbed my wrist, pulled me close, and forced himself on me. I froze, tears streaming down my face, too scared to fight back. Afterward, he acted like nothing happened, cuddling me, whispering, "See? That wasn't so bad." It happened again and again, after arguments, when I was sick, when all I wanted was sleep. I stopped saying no, because it was easier, safer. My body wasn't mine anymore. It was his to take. So why did I stay? It's hard to explain. To someone who hasn't been there, you tell yourself he'll change. You remember the sweet version of him, the man who once prayed with you, who held you when you cried, who said you were his world. You think, if I just love him right, maybe he'll go back to that person. And then there's fear. Fear of being alone again. Fear of starting from scratch, in a society where everyone asks, "So when are you getting married?" Or "Why are you still single?" Fear that people will say, "She can't keep a man." He also knew how to guilt trip me. Anytime I tried to leave, he'd say, "You're the only person who understands me." Or if you leave, I'll kill myself. One time, he even showed up at my office, kneeling outside the gate, crying. My colleagues were watching. I felt embarrassed, but also trapped. I went back home with him. My friends saw what I refused to see. They told me, "This isn't love, this is survival." But I wasn't ready to hear it. I kept telling myself, marriage isn't easy. Every relationship has its ups and downs. I kept patching something that was already dead. The day everything changed wasn't even a big fight. I was cleaning and found an old notebook from before I met him. Pages full of dreams. I used to write about starting a business, traveling, going back to school. I looked at those words and realized I didn't know that woman anymore. I'd lost her. I'd become someone who walked on eggshells, who cried quietly so no one would hear. That night, I looked in the mirror and whispered, "You can't do this anymore." It took months after that to actually leave. I started saving secretly, talking to a counselor at church, reconnecting with friends I'd lost. The morning I finally left, I left a note. "I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done." Walking away felt like pulling my own heart out. But it also felt like breathing for the first time. The first few weeks were hard. I missed him, not the pain, but the familiarity. I cried, questioned myself, almost went back, but with time, I started to heal. I took a solo trip to visit my cousin, and for the first time in years, I laughed without fear. My body felt like mine again, free to rest, to choose, to just be. Now when I look back, I don't see weakness anymore. I see a woman who finally chose herself. To anyone still stuck in something toxic, I understand you. You're not stupid. You're not weak. You're just trying to survive love that hurts. But please, remember this. Love should not make you afraid. It should not take your body without your yes. You can leave. You can start again. You can be free. All it takes is just that one step out. You're no prisoner. Thanks, Anonymo.
This isn't just her story. It's the story of so many who loved deeply and lost themselves trying to keep love alive. If you're watching this and it feels familiar, know this: it's not your fault. Love should never make you question your worth, your safety, or your sanity. You don't have to stay where peace no longer lives. You don't owe anyone your silence, your body, or your forgiveness when they keep breaking you. Healing doesn't happen overnight, but it starts the moment you say, enough. The moment you choose yourself, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble. For anyone still in it, reach out. Tell someone. There's always help, even when it feels like no one sees you. For anyone who's already left, keep walking. Healing is not weakness, it's power. And for everyone else watching, be kinder. You never know who's fighting to survive love that hurts. Because behind every quiet smile, there might be someone learning how to breathe again. At the end of it all, this isn't just a story about pain. It's about rediscovery, about remembering who you were before love became survival. If you're watching this and you're still in that place, please know, it's not too late to start again. Healing doesn't always look brave. Sometimes it's just breathing through the silence. Sometimes it's walking away even when your legs are shaking. And sometimes it's choosing peace over apology. To every woman and every man learning to rebuild, you are not broken. You are becoming. If this story spoke to you, share it. Not for views, but for someone who needs to hear it tonight. And if you've lived something like this, your story deserves to be heard too. Send it to Anonymo TV. Link to share your story pinned in the comments. No faces, no judgment, just truth. Because healing begins when silence ends. Watch the next story. Another voice, another truth. And if you believe in stories that heal, subscribe and stay with us.